All right, today we're jumping into a real geological detective story. We're going to investigate one of the most incredible and honestly mysterious features on the entire planet, this giant bullseye that's just staring up from the middle of the Sahara Desert. So, what is it? A lost city? The scar from some ancient asteroid impact? Or is it something else entirely? Let's get into it. I mean, just look at this. Seen from space, it is absolutely breathtaking. You've got this series of perfect concentric rings literally etched into the desert floor. It's officially called the Richat Structure, and for decades, its origin has been this captivating puzzle. So the big question is, how did this perfect bullseye get here? Okay, so this thing is located in the Adrar region of Mauritania, but most people know it by its much cooler nicknames, the Eye of the Sahara, or sometimes the Eye of Africa. And you can see why. It's such a distinct landmark that honestly, it almost looks like it was designed by someone.
And long before we had all these high-res satellites, the very first humans in orbit were just blown away by it. Think about it. The crew of the Gemini 4 mission, way back in 1965, actually used this giant eye as a navigational landmark. It was a crucial guide in the middle of this vast, totally featureless desert below.
And it's really no wonder they could spot it so easily from orbit. This structure is nearly 50 kilometers across. That's about 30 miles. We're talking about a geological feature on a truly colossal scale. It's huge.
So when you've got a shape this perfect and, well, this strange, it's only natural that some pretty wild theories start to pop up. And the most famous one of all, it connects this exact spot to one of the greatest legends in all of history.
Yeah, we're talking about Atlantis. The philosopher Plato, writing way back around 360 BCE, described it as this magnificent city built on alternating rings of land and water. Now, when you put that description right next to a picture of the Richat structure, the visual similarity is just undeniable. And that's what has fueled all this intense speculation that maybe, just maybe, this is the real location of that lost city.
And, the people who support this theory, they point to a really fascinating collection of circumstantial evidence. For starters, Plato's timeline, about 11,000 years ago, lines up perfectly with what's called the African humid period, a time when the Sahara was actually green and lush. Then you have an ancient map by Herodotus that actually labels this area Atlantis. The name Atlantis itself is linked to the Titan Atlas, who's associated with the nearby Atlas Mountains. And to top it all off, Plato mentioned elephants, and, well, where do you find elephants? Africa. It all just adds to the mystery. It's a really compelling story, for sure. It's hard not to get drawn in. But when we stop looking at ancient texts and maps and start looking at the geology, at the rocks themselves, a very different story starts to emerge. So, what's the truth that's hidden in the stone?
Well, after years and years of study, geologists have actually reached a really firm consensus. The Eye of the Sahara is not the ruin of some ancient city. Instead, it's the result of an absolutely epic, planetary-scale geological process.
So the key to understanding the eye is something called a geological dome. Here's a way to think about it. Imagine molten rock, or magma, pushing up from way deep inside the Earth. It doesn't actually break through the surface, but it forces all those rock layers above it to bulge upwards, creating this massive dome-like shape, kind of like a giant underground blister. So the process started with what's called an alkaline complex, way deep below the surface, that was pushing up with immense pressure. This is what created the initial dome. But it also caused intense fracturing in the rock, which let these superheated, mineral-rich fluids circulate all around and actually change the rock itself. Really, it all boils down to a pretty simple three-step process. First, you have the uplift, which created the dome. Second, over millions and millions of years, wind and water, erosion, basically shaved off the top. And finally, and this is the key part, that erosion didn't happen evenly. It carved away the softer rock much faster, leaving the harder layers behind as these high ridges. And that is what created the perfect bullseye pattern we see today. And the time scale for all this? It's just immense. We're talking over 100 million years ago. Geologists have dated the formation of that initial dome all the way back to the Cretaceous period. So this geologic timeline is way, way older than any possible human civilization. Okay, so what about the rings themselves? What are they? Well, they aren't just a pretty pattern. Think of them like the pages of a geological history book. Each and every ring tells a story about our planet's past.
What we're really looking at is a cross-section of that original dome. It's like the top's been sliced off. So each ring is a completely different layer of rock. You've got sedimentary stuff like sandstone and even igneous rock from volcanic activity, and they've all been exposed by all that erosion.
Now, to figure all this out, scientists use what's called false color satellite imagery to map out what these rings are made of. So the harder, more erosion-resistant rocks, the quartzites that make up the high ridges, they show up as reds and pinks. The softer rocks down in the valleys look much darker. And the detail is so incredible, you can even see these tiny little purple dots. And get this, those are actually individual trees and shrubs growing in the dry riverbeds.
But you know, the story of the Richat Structure doesn't just end there in the Sahara. Understanding how a feature like this forms on Earth actually has huge implications for how we explore other worlds. After decades of fieldwork and analysis, it was all summarized in a really important study back in 2005. And it confirms the conclusion: the eye is the eroded surface of a much, much deeper volcanic process. The science on this is pretty much settled.
And here is why that matters so much beyond our own planet. We've found formations that look just like this on Mars. So by studying the Richat Structure right here on Earth, where we can actually get up close and analyze the rocks, planetary scientists can build much better models to understand the geology of the red planet. It's like a natural laboratory for interplanetary science.
So now, the Eye of the Sahara isn't Atlantis, but in a weird way, the real story is just as amazing, right? It's a story of immense time, powerful planetary forces, all coming together to create this absolute masterpiece of natural art. And it leaves us with a really fascinating question to think about. If our own planet's geology can create an illusion this perfect, something that looks so much like a mythical city, what other legends and mysteries out there are just waiting for a scientific explanation?